Hello and welcome to this video. I wanted to make this video to showcase a bunch of enumeration techniques that I've learned throughout my training and throughout my career. Utilizing the labs from Carlos, and I got his permission to utilize his labs, so please be aware of that as well. We are going to go through a set of credentials, a series of sets of credentials. And in each one, we're going to do a little bit of enumeration, a little bit of attacks, mostly IAM attacks, not attacking Azure resources, mostly focusing on the principles for this video. So I hope you enjoy this video and learn, because it's a good amount of enumeration that I put together for this. All right, let's do it. If you're not familiar, I utilize Excel for my notes. So if you want these notes that I'm going to use throughout the video, please leave a comment or message me or do any sort of contact to me in any way so I can send you these notes. All right, we're here and we have these sets of credentials over here. By the way, we are going to be using Bloodhound. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the first set and log into Azure. Okay, now right off the bat, we have some information here that you want to take down. Now, whenever you get information, you want to take it down into a separate notes or somewhere in your notes. I leave it in the same directory as the project. So as you can see here, I have saved the tenant ID as a separate file, the subscription ID as a separate file, and that's just pretty much to organize everything that I can later reuse. These are just some tips and tricks for you, and you'll probably see why it's important once you get so much data that you want to work with and reuse over time throughout the project. You can see tenant ID is saved in here. So the first thing that we want to do is obviously see if we can access any resources. Now, resources are huge like vectors, but the fact is I'm only going to be showcasing IAM attacks. However, let's see the resources that we're going to get access to in consequence of the IAM attack that we conduct. And I want to showcase something here. So as you can see, we are able to access a key vault. Now, the permissions that we have over this key vault is seemingly unknown. However, it's actually very known, because there's an endpoint called permissions that tells you all the granular permissions that you have over the resource. So let me go ahead and show you. Firstly, you're going to need the subscription ID, which you can get through this command. And then you're going to need the resource ID, which is the ID of this resource, which is literally this right here. And if there are multiple resources, you're going to want to keep track of how many you got. We, of course, only have one. Let's save that one ID to the resource path. And now let's go ahead and get the granular permissions with this command. Like I said, if you don't want to ask for my notes, then what you can do is actually go ahead and screenshot. You can screenshot this page and then trim it, get the square to be bordering the command that you want, and then plug it into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to convert it into text. I do it all the time and it seems to work great. However, if you just want all my notes and you want all these commands as I've prepared them and organized them, just leave a comment below and I'll send you it. So the permissions that we have over this is right here in the actions section. We have secrets read and vaults read. Now, if you're unfamiliar, having permissions in actions does not equate to being able to retrieve internal data from the resource. So we can't actually get the secrets. If we wanted to get the secrets, instead of read, this would say get, and it wouldn't be in actions, it would be in data actions. If you're not familiar, there are two planes for each resource. There are the actions plane, which is the superficial plane that allows you to, like, let's say, read the name of it or read some of the IDs of it, like we did here. However, the other plane, the data plane, as we call it, is what is responsible for our ability to retrieve things, to retrieve the confidential data, to retrieve the secrets from this key vault. Now let's see if we have any roles. Now, the reason for us reading these permissions is not just to know that we don't have access. You could have obviously just checked if you had access or not, and you would have seen that we're unable to retrieve the secrets. The reason for doing this is that I want to showcase you how the actual things are found and not just leave you wondering, checking access by brute forcing or checking access by just seeing if you can access things, but actually understanding why you have the access that you have. So this is due to a role or due to some method of providing permissions. You're not just going to have these permissions out of the blue. So let's get down to the bottom of this as to why we have these permissions in the first place. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check if I have any roles. Let's get our user's ID first. Now let's see if we have any assigned roles. Let's see if we have any assigned roles on the subscription scope. So we do not have any assigned roles. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, assigned roles are utilized through the role-based access control. Now, there are two sides of permissions. You have the Azure side, which is based around the role-based access control roles. You provide roles with the exception of a few resources that can have their own policies. And then those roles or those policies on the resources provide the permissions. The other side is the Entra side. The Entra side can also be providing permissions in this scenario. And like I said, since we are doing attacks based on IAM, then it's pretty obvious that with nothing appearing on the assigned role side, it's going to be provided as a permission on the Entra side. Now let's go ahead and see what we have on the Entra side. AKA directory roles. They're called directory roles or attached roles. Okay, looks like we do got something. Now we want to resolve the role definition, which is right here. Holy smokers. We have a lot of stuff. Allowed resource actions. Oh, looks like we have application administrator. That's amazing. So with Application Administrator, we can manage applications. Now to figure out which application we can manage in order to abuse that. Okay, now since we did this manually, I do want to showcase how we could have done this automatically. And this is through the tool that you're really going to want to harness and master, just based off my training and my experience in the field. Bloodhound is going to be a huge resource for you. So I have Bloodhound running over here, and we need to ingest some data into it. So let's go ahead and use the Azure Hound ingester in a new tab. So where's my Azure Hound? All right, we have found the Azure Hound ingester. You can download it off Bloodhound. I'll show you that in a sec. But basically, we put the username, the password, and then the tenant ID, and the output. All right. Are you sure? I wonder if we don't need a tenant ID. Oh. Maybe we do need a tenant ID. Wait, let's see what's going on. Okay, so here's the correct command. I changed the tenant to a -t. and then it seemed to work. So here we are ingesting. I mean, we are collecting. We're done. So let's see if it's over here. All right, let's go ahead and ingest it. By the way, where did I get that Azure Hound collector? Right here. You go into, after you're downloading Bloodhound, you go right here and you go to download collectors. Now let's go ahead and see. Since this is ingesting, I'm going to go ahead and show you where to get this Bloodhound as well. Bloodhound CE, install Bloodhound CLI. And show you this real quick whilst it's ingesting. Install Bloodhound CE. As you can see, it's the first link that I found from searching. First, you download it from the GitHub, you unpack it, and then you use this simple command, Bloodhound CLI install. And then you get this Bloodhound that I have right here. Okay, it's done ingesting. So let's go ahead and see and get this data. Let's go ahead and plug in my user. Here's my user. And without any of the shenanigans that we did, check this out. Not only does it tell us whether we have a role-based access control role or an Entra ID role, AZ app admin, but also it tells us the exact app that we have permissions over. So it's like all the manual stuff that you can do is basically summed up into a visualization. Extremely powerful. So before we go ahead and abuse this, I want to show you one last way to figure out that we actually have this permission or have this administration over this app. The last way that I want to show you is called Azure Peas. Now, Azure Peas is very simple to get, just like Bloodhound. You search Azure Peas, go to the GitHub Azure Peas, and it has the installation instructions right here. Or you know what? I think there's a release. No releases. It's as simple as git cloning this repository and then using azurepeas.py. That's all it is. And you have to install the requirements. Make sure to break your Python packages as well. That really helps all the time. I just broke my recent I think it was my Kali VM. Or no, it was my Ubuntu. I broke my Ubuntu breaking my Python packages, and it was irreversible. Absolutely destructive. But anyways, let's go back to the terminal and let's run this command. So I'm going to point to my Azure Ps and then put in my creds just like before. Actually, I might need to put some of these bad boys. Okay, successfully got the Foki token. And this is the last and final tool that I'm going to show you. I'm pretty sure for the rest of the whole video. I really only use Bloodhound, and I am doing my due diligence by showcasing this tool as well, simply for the fact that it does find everything. Like, I'm pretty sure it does the same thing that Bloodhound does, which checks every single directory. So it goes through every single endpoint and then grabs all of that data from every single directory within the URLs. It goes through all the URLs possible to gain all the information, which seems to be doing the trick. Now, if you're trying to be covert, then really bad news for you for any of these tools. But hopefully, I think if you're trying to be covert, then you wouldn't even be watching this video. You'd be way beyond this stuff. So anyways, yeah, this is going to run. And now we are going to abuse the application administration that we have. Now, one last thing before we start to abuse this permission. Earlier in the video, we saw how we have a resource here. We saw how we have permissions over this key vault. And I said to you, what's more important than trying to see and knowing that we don't have access is knowing why we have permissions and how we are getting access. Now, how we actually have permissions over this resource is through a policy that's attached to the resource. I know, kaboom. All we are trying to do is categorize the different places where we can have permissions. And we've established that there can be role-based access permissions that are Azure, that are on the Azure side, and then Entra ID based permissions. And now there's a third category for only a certain amount of resources that are basically policies attached to the resource. Now, let me show you what I mean. If we go here to my notes, over to the key vault section, I actually highlighted it in gold because this is the golden command. And basically what this command is going to do is tell you the access policies that are basically attached onto this resource. And this is specifically a key vault command. So I have no clue what resources actually allow this or have access policies. I mean, there are so many resources. Who knows which ones have it? But that all comes with time and experience. That's why in the beginning of the video, the one thing that I crucially think is something that you should really try to understand is this is not everything, and these are not the only ways to do things. You're going to get better at this the more you do it. So I really urge you to get as much experience enumerating, not even just in Azure, with any technology that you're doing or you're trying to master. Keep doing different labs from different training platforms, from different worlds, and keep doing it all the time and everywhere until you know so many ways to enumerate that nothing is going to fly under the radar when you're doing an assessment or when you're conducting your project. So as you can see here, the format of this is basically, this is one block. And in this block, we have the object ID, and the object ID is going to be the principal that we're providing access to, or we're providing access for. This principal ID is going to be acquiring the access that's listed here. Under permissions, you can see the secrets section has list. And if we are this, then we can list the secrets. So, turns out we're actually this. So that's why we can list the secrets, but we can't get them. If you see a different one, like look at this guy over here. He has get and list. Well, let me confirm to you that we are actually this. (9128) and over here 9128. So this is us, and we can only list the secrets. Now let's see who's this guy who can actually get the secrets and not just list them. So let's go ahead and over to our Azure Service Principal. Pretty sure this is going to be. Okay, hopefully this is it. Otherwise, I'm going to pause and figure it out. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, I think I found out how to do it. It's this command right here. Resolve object ID. I'm going to resolve this object ID. Amazing. We've just resolved the object ID, and it looks like this is a service principal because it has a service principal name. App display name. So this is an application, and yeah, it's called Entra ID Lab 1 app. Isn't that funny? This is actually the same app that we saw on Bloodhound. Entra ID Lab 1. So, looks like to me that our user can only list the key vault, the keys in the key vault. But this app that it has access to can list and get the keys from the key vault. So this is a very clear privilege escalation pathway and attack. And I hope that you enjoyed seeing the sources of the permissions, seeing how to enumerate the causes and the reasons for this, rather than just seeing the attack by itself. And this is a huge mindset that I want to give to you when you're doing your training, when you're doing your assessments, is literally you cannot just provide the client with the attack. You have to tell him the attack is possible because of this permission, this configuration, etc. And after changing this, you will have remediated the problem. That's why we need to train in this way, in this holistic way that involves understanding the causes of things rather than just mindlessly attacking all day, which is something that, I used to do. But anyways, let's go ahead and abuse this now. And actually, let's check on Azure Ps first. So Azure Ps is done here. And the format of Azure Ps is going to be like this. You see each of these dotted lines? Each section of dotted lines is an intersection between two sections. So this is the first section, aka the first resource or permissions over a resource. And then this is another set of permissions over another resource. So firstly, we have permissions over this key vault, which we already know. And we've thoroughly investigated this. And we know that we can read it already. So that's great. We don't want read. We want to actually be able to get the keys from the key vault. And then here we have application administrator. So this is the crucial or key set of permissions that we found through Bloodhound and through manual enumeration. Like I said, I'm simply showing you this tool because out of my due diligence, because this tool does seem to work throughout my tests and my experiments. This tool was as effective as Bloodhound, so I had to show it to you. Although you can do just Bloodhound, you can do manual enumeration, you can formulate your own methodology. So, like it says, we have application administrator, and who do we have this over? The role definition ID, which is this bad boy right here. I'm pretty sure. So if we take this, wait, is it? Let's go ahead and resolve it. Oh no, that's sorry, this is the role definition ID. So this is the role. And yeah, that's pretty cool. That gives you the role definition ID right here. And then it gives you this. So let's actually resolve this too. Okay, and then, okay, so it seems like after giving you the role, the next ID is the application. And this is the application, which is the resource that we have all of these permissions over. So you're gonna want to, if you're gonna get acquainted with this tool, and you like this tool and you want to reuse it, you're going to want to get acquainted with the format of this right here. So firstly, it gives you the role, so the source of the permissions, and then it gives you the target for those permissions. Okay, let's go ahead and abuse this, shall we? Now, in order to abuse this, we're going to want to utilize our application administrator role. And that means that, for example, in this role right here, we can update the credentials for the application. Now, this is less of an enumeration technique, so I'll get over it pretty quick. But I want to showcase one thing that I also really like to do throughout my training and throughout my just gaining experience in any way, which is if I'm abusing this, then, and I abused it successfully, then I take it, I copy it, and now I make a section for it in my notes. In my notes, under my AZ app section, I'll keep this as a method of privilege escalation, and I'll put with it the specific permission that I abuse by doing this action, which is to make a new password. Something very small, but it adds up along the way. Like, for example, in a different project or a different lab or or even in your assessment, you find that you have a permission and you use this tool and then you see the permission here. You can just take it, copy it, and then search for it in your notes if you're using Excel like me. And then you'll find that section and you can abuse it right away super quick. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I'm unsure if you reset the app or the service principal. I kind of forgot, but we'll go ahead and do both. See which one works. Like, just imagine, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm certified by multiple different training institutions or Azure. And I don't even know if you reset the app, you reset using the app ID or the service principal ID. Like that's how so utterly complex Azure is. Way more complex than AWS and GCP, in my opinion. Okay, so you do use the app ID. And now let's go ahead and sign into this. I think it's tenant. No, I think it's tenant ID. Okay, it's not tenant ID. See tenant. Nice. This is the tenant right here. And let's see. Tenant ID. Yeah, this is the tenant ID. Oh, my bad. Service principal flag. Amazing. So now we know through our previous enumeration that this has access to the keys in the key vault. So if we go ahead and see resource list, and it can also list it, which is convenient as well. So now we go over to our AZ key vault. This is the value of taking effective notes, putting a command in each cell and being able to search it and find it so easily and quickly. Just relieves you of having to shove so many different commands and query languages and all these different languages and libraries of commands into your brain. You just have them all in one place to search. It speeds up your training, speeds up how fast you can get into the field and start actually doing things. So let's go ahead and list the secrets. And also I number things. So as you can see here, if you take a look here, I actually number some commands if they are in a sequence. That way I can quickly go to each number, for common processes like getting secrets out of key vaults. It's just a simple thing, but it helps to speed things up. Okay, so with that being said, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I tried to make it as, compact as possible. Putting all the simple, effective enumeration techniques all into one compact video. And yeah, I thought I would go through every single account that I had in that list, but I think that would take about much longer time. But hopefully, I gave you enough to get started, and I gave you it's literally just a tiny bit of what you should be trying to gain out of your training and out of your labs and out of what you're trying to do, or whichever technology you're trying to master or learn how to hack. By following this mindset of how are things happening, why do I have the permissions that I have, you will be able to gain a lot more skill once you encounter newer but related, or variations by a tiny bit of the previous thing that you did, and you'll be able to instantly understand how to do it because it's so similar, or because you investigated enough in the previous scenarios. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to help me out. And yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to me on Discord or LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you, and see you later.